Hello friends and my lovely viewers. Welcome back to the channel of Neon Safe. Today we will discuss what traits to give our new Ganesh champions. Let's get started.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. I'm tired of shit.
Our male Ganesh is a proper tank type who relies on strength in both his active and ultimate skill. We may therefore want to place the trait called Brutal on him to ensure we do not waste any of his potential. A level 22 Brutal trait gives our champion a 45% increase in strength. It may look a little bit unnatural having a so-called DPS trait on a tank champion, but I personally believe it is necessary for this champion. It allows him to deal maximum damage and it also increases the strength limit of his ultimate skill. The next trait we may want for this male Ganesh is the trait called Combat Fatigue. At level 22, when taking damage, the enemy's attack speed will be reduced by 25% for 4 seconds. Since our male Ganesh mostly will aggro the enemy and take damage, we may want to take this opportunity by launching debuffs on the enemy. And this is a great trait to annoy our opponent. If we are unable to acquire this exact trait, we may opt for a very similar one called Demoralize. This one will at level 22 reduce the attack speed of all our enemies by 30%. It begins immediately to take effect as soon as we start the battle, but it doesn't stack and we are not quite sure for how long it lasts. So, it is a little bit vague, but it should still be useful to us. And if we do not want either of these traits, we may go for something as simple as Energetic. At level 22, this trait gives our champion a 45% increase in Constitution. A Constitution buff like this one will make our passive skill shield effect stronger, which is a great plus point for us. For the third trait slot we may want to try out Icy Thorns. At level 22, when taking active skill or ultimate attack damage, the attacker will take 11% more damage for 3 seconds. It can stack up to 2 layers. This is a trait I personally believe is very suitable on tanks, since it once again places debuffs on the enemy whenever our champion is struck by skill damage. It is also very similar to our clan trait called Ruthless. For those of us who do not remember, this is our Ganesha's clan trait. Both our Icy Thorns and Ruthless traits are doing the same thing, just with different criterias and time limits and so on. So they may work nicely hand in hand, to be honest. By the way, if by any chance we are unable to acquire the Icy Thorns trait, we may instead aim for the trait called Impair. At level 22, attacks and skills will increase the enemy's damage taken by 8% for 4 seconds. It can stack up to 3 times. Do keep in mind that our champion may be a little bit slow, which might make this trait a little bit less efficient. So it may not be our number one choice, but this trait could still be worth it in my opinion. As for our last slot, we may want the Sanguine trait. At level 22, all champions' damage will increase by 2%, and 1.8% is added every 2 seconds. We can reach a total of 20% damage buff for our champions with this trait. Our Sanguine is very dependent on how long our battles last for, since it may take up to 20 seconds or more for this effect to fully reach its peak. And Sanguine is also reliant on the survivability of our male Ganesh. But since he has the potential to become a very durable tank, this trait may be perfect for him. But if we do not think Sanguine will be functional for our team, or if we experience energy problems with our male Ganesh, we may try out our Energy Regen trait instead. At level 22, we will gain 240 energy points when taking active skill or ultimate attack damage. The cooldown lasts for 8 seconds. This trait is very suitable for tanks since we gain energy from taking damage, and that is why I believe we may have great use of it. But in the end, which traits we choose for our Ganesh champs is entirely up to each and one of us. These were just my own personal opinions for the male, so feel free to suggest other traits in the comments below. Let us move on to discuss the traits of our female Ganesh. I feel like we may find her more difficult to build, but at least for the first slot we may want to put Brutal. At level 22, this trait gives our champion a 45% increase in strength. She is way more reliant on strength compared to our male Ganesh, and therefore we should without a doubt give her this strength buff. All of her skills are somewhat dependent on the amount of strength she has, so Brutal may be a game-changing trait. In the second slot, we may consider our well-known aggressive trait. At level 22, each attack of our champion will increase her strength by 2%, and it goes up to 20%. The only problem we may face by placing this trait on her is her attack speed. The faster she is, the quicker she can reach the strength cap of this buff. So as long as she doesn't act like a snail in battle, it should work just fine. For the third trait slot, I normally would suggest Barrier, but her ultimate skill has a 8-second cooldown that prevents us from using the active skill. So it may not be very beneficial having Barrier on this champion. We may aim for Honorable instead to give her a different type of defense that also is compatible with her skills. At level 22, Honorable gives our champion a 25% increase in total damage reduction. Even though she is a warrior, and theoretically speaking she should have more durability in battle, we may still want a trait to keep her alive. Some champions out there deal massive amounts of damage after all. And if we build her up in the DPS route with brutal and aggressive, it makes her a bigger target to the enemy. At last we may try out either Impair or Shura's avatar for our fourth slot. Impair focuses on weakening the enemy whenever we launch normal attacks and skill attacks, while Shura's avatar increases the critical damage of our champion when we launch either active or ultimate skills. So both traits are meant to eat away the constitution of our enemy, just in their own unique way. If we want to restrict our enemy to help our champion deal damage, then we may aim for Impair. While if we want to buff our own champion to deal more damage, then Shura's avatar it is. These are just my own personal opinions on trait comps that I believe may fit our Ganesh champions well, according to their skills and the Ruthless clan trait. We may have other traits in Bloodline that are just as good, so feel free to experiment by trying out different combinations of traits. That all being said, I believe we have covered the topic for today. If you have any questions or thoughts you would like to share with us, feel free to comment below. To partake in our giveaways, subscribe to the channel. You may also leave a like or share the video with your friends. We highly appreciate your support and contribution. Thank you so much for watching today's video, and have an amazing day. Take care, stay foxy, adios, bye.